Ask a racing driver which is the world's best circuit and most will answer without hesitation, the Nürburgring. Not the modern sterile Formula One track, but the original Nordschleife out there in Germany's Eifel Mountains. It opened in June 1927, a 23-kilometre, 174-turn roller coaster built to provide jobs when the Weimar Republic was in economic depression and the Nazi Party was starting its climb to power. The early German Grands Prix, the first won by Otto Merz, the second by Rudi Caracciolo, were for sports cars. But by 1931, both the Grand Prix and the legendary Eifelrennen were run to single-seater rules. With Adolf Hitler now in power, state funding was made available to both Mercedes and Auto Union to ensure German superiority over Alfa Romeo, ERA and other marques. These were truly the titans, 500 horsepower monsters which could top 200 miles per hour on a long straight. Proud of their national teams, hundreds of thousands of Germans would pack the ring to cheer them on. The track itself became legendary with the banked carousel, the Flugplatz, the Flansgarten and Schwabelschwanz amongst the most challenging corners in the world. Outstandingly, the most successful of the pre-war heroes was Caracciolo, who was to win the German Grand Prix 4 times and the Eifelrennen 5 times, usually for Mercedes, although he had a brief affair with Alfa Romeo. Manfred von Brauchitsch was another Silver Arrows warrior, unlucky here, but a winner at Monaco. Safety was minimal. No guardrails, no helmets, nor seatbelts for the drivers, and fire was always a risk. The ring also created legendary characters, like Mercedes' dictatorial team manager, Alfred Nürburgring, and the diminutive Italian Tazio Nuvolari, who upset both him and the might of Germany by winning the 1935 Grand Prix in his outdated Alfa P3. If he went off the road, as did Ernst von Delius here on the 2-kilometre Dottingerhoe Straight, you could crash to your death in the trees or the valleys below. This was truly the golden age of motor racing, when men were giants, fighting not only their rivals, but their own hugely powerful machines on narrow tyres and drum brakes. After World War II, the Nürburgring reopened, the track unchanged from 1927. Auto Union had gone, but Mercedes was quickly back to the top against Maserati, Ferrari and Lancia. A new name had come to the fore, Juan Manuel Fangio, who would win the German Grand Prix for 3 successive years in the 50s, for Mercedes, for Lancia and for Maserati, the last his greatest ever race after a delayed pit stop. In the 60s, Ferrari was dominant against Lotus, BRM, Cooper, Brabham and Honda. Among the great drivers of that era were Scotsman Jim Clark and Jackie Stewart. Safety for drivers might have improved, but not that of the ring. It had already claimed the lives of Onofre Marimon, Peter Collins, Carol de Beaufort, John Taylor and many more. Others would follow, hardly surprising given the bumpy, twisting nature of this incredible racetrack, the world's greatest test of man and machine at flat-out Formula One speeds. Brabham pairing, Jack Brabham and Denny Hulme, won the 1966 and 1967 German Grands Prix, run on the Nordschleife every year except for 1970, when Hockenheim was tried out. This was 1976, and an era was about to come to an end. On the front row for the race was Ferrari's Niki Lauda, leading the championship from James Hunt. He made his usual start, leaving Carlos Pache and Jackie Stewart standing. Stewart had made history in 1968, taking his Tyrrell Matra to a 4-minute win in the wet, still the biggest victory margin in history, but he said, "I was always afraid of this track, there were so many sections where you were just a passenger." The return loop behind the pits gave spectators the chance to see the cars at least twice on each 8-minute lap. But they wouldn't see much more of Lauda. Still leading, he crashed in flames after Bergwerk, almost losing his life. Formula One would never race on the Nordschleife again. But the famous North Loop was not finished. Sports cars and touring cars would continue to race on it. This was the 1980 Nürburgring 24 Hours, already the 9th edition of an event that is still going strong in the 21st century. On a track this size, there was no problem accommodating more than 200 starters. But the absence of Formula One was hurting the ring, and in 1983 the decision was taken to build a new Grand Prix track based on the start-finish area. Famous landmarks such as the pre-war pits, race control buildings and electronic scoreboard were knocked down. The sports hotel was soon to follow. Only the original wooden grandstands remained, but they too would soon be consigned to history. The Nürburgring opened in 1984 with a race for Formula One stars in identical Mercedes 180Es. Winner was none other than Ayrton Senna, holding off Niki Lauda, back at the ring for the first time since his near-fatal crash, and Carlos Reutemann third.